Are those the Bibles?
Those are the Bibles. Every book in here is a Bible.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Some are paperback, some are hardback. But
Okay.
so, I'm glad they're going to good use. I think it's great that Mercy Street wanted it.
Yeah.
Super.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I did give away 3 of them last week.
Oh, that's cool.
Indigent guy came in, started talking about the Trinity and other stuff.
Hmm.
I said, "You want a Bible?" He said, "You have Bibles? Can I have a Bible?" I said, "Sure."
Wow.
"Can I have one for my wife?" I said, "Absolutely."
Dang.
So, I said,
Yeah.
"Here." He said, "Oh, thank you so much."
Interesting.
It is interesting. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there you go. It's all
All
yours,
right.
man.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. So this is how I was trained on how to engage Muslims with the gospel. And it's a very simple thing, just with one sheet of paper. And the reason that it's simple is it's supposed to be reproducible. So you should be able to train somebody else in this. So the first thing you do to get started is fold the sheet of paper like this, because we're going to use every part of the paper for a different piece. So like that. And then hopefully I flipped the camera around here. So then you write get, oh perfect, connected at the top, and draw a box around it. Underneath that, prayer question. So this is the first step in the conversation with someone you think or know is Muslim. And you basically would be asking here, can I pray for you? And then you say, I'm a praying man or woman, or I'm a praying household. And so this is kind of the first in with them. And then what they'll usually say, at least this is what I've been told by those who have field tested it, because I haven't used it yet. I just learned it a couple days ago. But what I'm told is they will usually just come out and say, I'm a Muslim. And then you respond, Salam alaikum. And I've been told even if you kind of mess up the greeting, you endear them. just because you're trying. And then they will return the greeting by saying, oh, I think I spelled that wrong. Alaikum salam. And then you say, I'm a follower of Isa, which means Jesus. You may know if you're watching this. I have always wanted to ask a Muslim a question. Now they're intrigued. Who's going to deny the question? You know? And you say, may I ask you? All right. So that's how you get connected. Then turn the paper like so. Up at the top on the left-hand side, right, get them lost. And you probably know what I mean by that and where I'm going. But you could ask them one of the following 3 questions or all 3 of the questions. But the first question is, are you pure before God? Or if you're comfortable, you can say Allah. The second question, when will you be pure before God? And the third question, on Judgment Day, will you be accepted into paradise? So again, you can ask one of these 3 questions. You can ask all 3 questions. You can even do it in that order. But all these questions are designed to help them understand and self-realize that they're lost. You know, they may not know what lost means like we know, but we're not really even using that term in the questions. But we're creating the need, in other words. Then below this, write transition to gospel. Oops. Draw a box around it. And then here's what you say to transition. After they've answered the question or questions, you say, what I believe is different. I have been made pure not because of good things I have done. And let me back up. So we're saying this because what I would expect them to answer any of these questions with is, I don't know. I've also heard from the guy that trained me on this is that sometimes they'll even say that they do know and that they are pure or they will be accepted in the paradise because of the good works that they've done. And then they'll start listing all of them off. So this is what we're saying in response to those two answers, because this is most likely how they're going to answer these questions. So you say, what I believe is different. I have been made pure not because of good things I have done, but because God has made me pure. And then you ask, may I show you how from stories you know? So we're asking if we can show them how we know this or why we believe this using stories that they already know. Because they're stories that are not only in the Bible, but they're in their holy books. So turn your paper sideways and write the gospel tool up here. Draw a box around it. And then you're going to tell 4 different stories from the Bible that are also in their holy books. So you start with Adam and Eve in the garden and explain they were in the garden. God created them. God created the garden they were in, the world. He created all of it good. They were in perfect harmony with each other, with God, with creation. Everything was going great, but God gave them one rule to follow, and that was to not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And here, again, because they know the stories, you can even ask the person you're talking to, do you know what happened next? And they'll probably say, yeah, they ate the apple or they ate the fruit or whatever. And so you explain, yeah, they disobeyed, they broke the one rule, and then they experienced the shame of disobedience because God called them out, essentially, for breaking the rule. But he also killed an animal to use for clothing to cover their nakedness and shame once they realized they were naked after eating the fruit. The second story is the story of Abraham and his son. And you do not say Isaac because of the debate over that, whether it's Isaac or Ishmael, that they would debate you on that. But God asked Abraham to sacrifice his only son on an altar. And just before Abraham was going to sacrifice his son in an act of obedience, God provided a ram this is supposed to be a ram as a substitute sacrifice for his son. The next story is the story of the Passover lamb. When the first Passover happened, God saved the Israelites from the angel of death coming through Egypt when he told them to sacrifice an unblemished lamb or goat or sheep and then spread the blood using a hyssop branch over the doorway. And then when the angel of death came, that night, he spared the households who had the doorway or the blood over their doorway. Now, the last story is when I've heard it said Yahya or John the Baptist looks at Isa, essentially, Isa al-Masih, and calls him the Lamb of God who takes away sin. And so what you need to know about Isa al-Masih is that he came to earth as the Son of God and lived the life, the perfect life that we could not live, and died the death we deserve on the cross as a sacrifice. And then was buried in the tomb for 3 days, and then rose from the dead, proving he was God. And when he did this, he took our shame upon himself and took our shame away. And he was the substitute for our sin and our shame. And it was his blood who spared us, because he, doing this, is the Lamb that takes away our sin, the Lamb of God. And then you close by asking a couple questions. You ask, have you ever heard this before? Because most likely they've heard these 4 stories, but they've never made this connection here. And then you ask, would you like to read about Isa or Jesus in your Injil, which is one of their holy books? And the Injil is just the Gospels from the New Testament. So this story obviously is in the Injil. These stories are in their other holy books. So one of the other holy books they have is the Torah. And then I've also been told that these stories are in the Quran. I haven't verified that myself, but that's what the guy that trained me told me. But they're obviously in the Torah. So all these stories are in their holy books. Okay, and then the last thing you need to know, turn your paper over like this. So we've got these pages, is what's called some emergency apologetics. Right up here, is that what the Quran says? Because you'll get 3 main objections, most likely. The first one, the Bible is corrupt, is what they might say. And then you respond. We're going to respond to all these objections by pointing them to the Quran and show them in their own holy book what it says. So if you're watching this, you may or may not know that surah is like the chapter of the book for the Quran, and ayah is the verse. And then write down Surah 5, ayah 46 through 48. And then it's super helpful to have on your phone a Quran. And I think the one I use is right here called Quran Explorer. And so here's the Quran. And if I go up here, I can find, for example, Surah 5. I'm sorry, that's ayah. Surah's right here. 5, 46 through 48. And then you can read that passage there on your own. Or I'll read it real quick. Will you then, oh shoot, I think I pressed the wrong buttons. But anyway, so look that up. And you can also look up Surah 5, ayah 44. Okay. Second objection you'll get, Isa did not die. And then you can go to Surah 3:55 and Surah 19:33 to 34. And I'm just going to let you look these up and study them on your own, because I'm honestly not familiar enough with my app yet, since I just downloaded it a couple days ago, to walk you through the text. So that's something I need to do. But the last objection you'll get is Isa is just a prophet, and you can go to Surah 3, ayah 45, and then dispute that claim. So that is how to engage with a Muslim in a simple, reproducible tool that you can use for yourself and train others on, all on one sheet of paper.